Hello and welcome to the 24th video in the Project Sovereign series. In this video, I'll complete the Captain's Yacht Torpedo Launcher area. It's time to wrap up this part of the ship, so let's get started. More Greeble time. So there's just a few more parts that we need to build. It's going to be a bit time consuming, especially this mechanical area in here, but I will show you. So we're going to be building this rectangle. I'm going to do that off camera because it's literally just going to be a turbo smooth rectangle, very boring. This little piece here, we need to make all the mechanicals in here. And finally, just this little pod. Again, that's going to be a really primitive shape, so I won't show that. It'll basically be the same thing as this. But for this piece right here, I was thinking ahead. And I will unhide all. Aha, see, I made another copy of this. So what I can do is, I don't think I'll kill the turbo smooth. Maybe turbo smooth of 1. I usually don't do that, but let me shrink it down because we'll see just how detailed it needs to be. And of course, I'm going to remove all these other extraneous polygons, but you can see that I'm going for this shape, which is basically just an echo of the larger shape. So I can simply put that in place. And again, I'm just doing it right now to size it. More or less. Nope. It's kind of going back and forth. It's going to be a lot bigger. So just like that. But yeah, see, that's why you want to have foresight and keep shapes, because otherwise I would have had to build this again from scratch and it just would have been a big waste of time. But keeping a shape separate and hidden, you know, maybe I wouldn't need it. Maybe I'd find another way to build it really quickly, but what's the point if we can just reuse this shape? And I think that looks pretty good. All right, so I created these basic shapes, this rectangular piece, and what I'm guessing is a little nacelle here. And they're as boring as I promised. It's just a turbo smooth box and a slightly deformed turbo smooth box. So that's really all there is to it. You're just making these really basic kind of shapes. But it's quick and easy with the turbo smooth modifier. So now we get to make the fun stuff, which is everything that's going to be in here. And here's the reference that I'm using. Now, there's good news and there's bad news. And I'll give the bad news first because I guess that's the way everyone likes it. The bad news is that this reference, you know, the ship's moving. It's not that close up. There's film grain, so it's really difficult to see what's going on in here. The good news is it's really difficult to see what's going on in here. So what that means is it gives us a little bit of leeway. So I think I know what I'm going to create for just these shapes up here. And I'm just going to show you just like a basic, it's so basic, just putting in little greebly bits in here, which is really important to building a starship like this because it really adds a sense of interest and scale. And it can be tedious, but it can also be fun too. So it's going to be very much like these rectangular things that I was showing before. Well, I didn't show before, but that I just made. Just really basic. Okay, so I'm going to make, I don't know, just this little box up here with these little things on it. It's really super simple. And I'll show you how I do one just so you can see, but it probably won't be that interesting. So I'm just going to make a box. Doesn't matter if I get the size right because I can always resize it, of course. Bring it down to here. Just kind of get it into position. Just like this. And that's close enough because we can always, of course, convert to edit poly. And it's all right if these points go beyond the walls because it'll just be, oh, it's really tall. They'll just be absorbed by it. So it's just some fine tuning. Sort of adjusting it in like that. Something like that. Let's check our reference. And there looks to be like 3 kind of things going on here. So what I'm actually going to do, like that. Not worried about getting anything wrong because it's just like, really, unless you have access to the original model, if you're the person that bought it at Christie's, I'd surely love a gander. But otherwise, you know, we get to have some freedom with this part of the model. And there's these 3 sort of nodes right here. Actually, what I'm going to do, it's cool. It looks like every time I kind of look at it, I see something new, which tends to happen with stuff like this. There we go. Yeah, just something like that. Right? See this little divot in here, this little angle. So I'm just going to recreate that. All right, I think that's going to be fine. And then finally, you know, just real basic. Let's connect these edges. We can do stuff like that. Actually, I'm going to do one more. Here we go. Right? Yeah, there's 3 of these things. That's what I want. And just slide them over like that. Spread them out. And by polygon, of course, because we want 3 of them. That looks good. And extrude. Not so much. Sure. Apply our material. Great. And that's really it. Just this little piece right here is adding some detail. I'm going to build more of these. I'm going to attach them all. And finally, I'll add a symmetry modifier. So it'll, of course, be identical on both sides because that's pretty much what they are. So I'll be back with the finished product of these little mechanical industrial bits here. And that should be really it. Let me see if I can fix this viewport here. Sometimes it gets a little craggly. Yeah. And we should be all done with this Captain's Yacht Quantum Torpedo module. So very exciting, getting close to being done with this part of the ship. Okay, so here is a test render of the Greeble areas, and you see I filled in a lot of stuff, but I also want to keep it kind of simple too. So let me show you exactly what I did. So first of all, of course, I copied it. And you saw me make this. I also made these kind of pipes that you can see just sort of here, and they come into like this sort of like valve junction. I'm going to say that this is part of the cooling system, the torpedo launch cooling system. It's sort of the fun of building these models is you get to sort of make this stuff up. So just a couple of wires here. and, spheres with more hoses. This little box was really all I could make of this shape here. And again, I just want to keep it simple. It's very easy to get carried away and start building detail. You zoom in, you start building rivets and valves and switches and stuff. And before you know it, you've spent an entire day on this little piece that people just barely see. So I just kept it really simple. I also made this kind of heat exchanger. This is just a box with some slots in it. And finally what I did was I made these, I don't know if they're there on the model, but I thought they looked nice. So just these two discs to kind of fill in this dead space that's right here. And an interesting thing to note on this valve, when I was making it, I extruded this cylinder here to make it go into the wall, to make it go further. Now, when you extrude with Max, it doesn't smooth automatically, which is sort of a pain in the butt sometimes, but I thought here it was pretty cool because it created this kind of differently shaded area for more visual interest. Now, it's probably never going to be seen because you have to be really close to the model to see that. But it's just kind of this fun, built-in sort of detail that can happen when you're working in Max, and it will add visual interest to the model. And it's absolutely free. It didn't cost any polygons, and in fact, it saved me work. So another little happy accident. And that's it. As far as I'm concerned, we are done with this part of the ship. Of course, there's going to be textures and stuff like that. But on the whole, this area is finished. So thanks for sticking with me for building of this part, but there's still a lot more work to do on the ship. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon.